Let's talk a little bit about the Armenian context. As I said, not so many people know that TM has been used in Armenia for quite a long time, quite successfully. How was it that TM was originally brought to Armenia?
Well, it's the details. I wasn't there at the time, but the details of the overall picture is really simple. Is that the TM program is both to help the individual, is to help the individual come out of stress, and also to help the individual develop full mental potential, which means inner fulfillment and outer success and activity. But it's also a compassionate organization that cares for the world. It's here to help reduce stress in the individual and the world. And so when there was with the earthquake of 1988, it was brought to the attention of the leaders of the TM movement that there was a huge suffering, a lot of trauma and PTSD, and huge suffering in Armenia. And there was a request by Armenia, by some of the leaders, the governmental leaders in Armenia, for help. So we simply responded to the call, and we sent 10 TM teachers, and then later another 10 or 20 TM teachers. And within 2 years, they taught 30,000 people TM. And the results were rapid and dramatic, because as we experienced with the Congolese war refugees, who were overwhelmed with the stress of the violence and that they'd seen or been subjected to. The same thing, anytime PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, can be caused by any number of traumatic events. It can be war violence, it can be sexual abuse, it could be natural disaster like in Armenia. So when there was a call for help, the TM movement raised the money. They went to help those in need, and thousands of people learned. Children who had been under rubble or had seen family members killed, or wives who had lost their mothers, who had lost their children or husbands, who were crying without limit. They just couldn't stop. The stress was so great. And after they learned TM, they didn't forget what had happened, but they weren't overwhelmed with the stress of it. They could start living their lives again with the burden of the loss they had. So we were brought there at the request of the great need in nature, the great need of so many people crying out for help, and the government also assisted us. And then people immediately recognized what was going on, and they appreciated it. And the word spread by mouth that this is really helping. This is really helping. So please come, and we want to learn too.
That's beautiful. There's a photo of Armenians meditating together. I don't know exactly which year was that, but I think they were gathering in one of the universities. Yeah, and just watching the faces of people and just seeing people getting together to generate positive consciousness or help just alleviate, transcend their suffering, is just so beautiful and inspiring. And as someone that has actually worked with political affairs and foreign relations, I feel like Armenia is in a situation right now where we need to tap into our own energy and get tools that will allow us to use our creativity a lot more. So it seems like transcendental meditation could be such a tool. Tell us a little bit about the degree to which TM has been integrated in Armenia. And I know you have been advocating for TM, so you talk with different government officials, organizations. What's happening right now?
Yeah, so it turns out that as every Armenian knows, in the fall of 2020, there was another war with Azerbaijan. Fairly disastrous war. It created a lot of fear in the country. Obviously, the people in the war zones and the soldiers and the displaced people felt huge amount of stress. We've actually done a video which you can play sometime that shows 15-minute video by award-winning documentary filmmaker Tigran Nersisian, which highlights what happened, discusses TM a little bit, and so you're free to play that if you'd like. But so what happened after the war was in 2020, fall of 2020. In this January of 2021, a message was sent out by the Armenian Ministry of Emergency Situations, calling from psychiatrists around the world. It didn't actually say psychologists and psychiatrists, just said help needed all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they were specifically hunting for psychologists and psychiatrists to help with war trauma and associated mental challenges that arise from war. So we were alerted about that, and since I've done articles on this, I've been focusing on that. I helped write a proposal to the Ministry of Emergency Situations, saying that it's showing the research comparing TM with the top psychological techniques, which are psychiatric techniques, which are called prolonged exposure and cognitive behavior therapy, and we've compared them in research, and we're at least as good, if not significantly better than those procedures. And we're not, and Transcendental Meditation is not what's called trauma facing. Trauma facing that you don't have to you don't have to sit down with a psychologist or psychiatrist or expert and say, let's discuss what happened. We don't need to trauma to do TM. It's the opposite. Instead of facing the trauma, dealing with the trauma, remembering the trauma, we forget the trauma. We transcend the trauma. We go to quieter, more and more settled levels of thinking, the completely different mechanic of healing. Our mechanic is to go to quieter levels of the thinking process until we go to the quietest level. And because the mind and body are connected, and you get so much deeper level of rest with TM that even deep at point of deep sleep, when we sleep, we get rid of stress and strain, we come out fresher. So when you do TM, we get much deeper level of rest, we get rid of much more stress and fatigue, and we come out, we get rid of the stress and post-traumatic stress of the trauma, and we're freed of that within 15, 20, 30 days for most people. Much of the trauma is gone. And of course, you continue the practice to keep the trauma off, to keep the stress off, and to experience post-traumatic growth. So the point is that with TM, we experience a dramatic reduction in PTSD. So we gave our we showed the scientific research to the Ministry of Emergency Situations, and they said, and we actually visited them, and they said, for our project, we only want to support psychologists and psychiatrists, but they sent us a letter. The Ministry of Health wrote a letter that said TM is good for mind and body. So although they didn't support us to actually help in their specific project, they endorsed us to go help all around the country. So then we went to all the provincial governments, and the provincial government said, it's very great, we'll support you to reach out to those in need. So that's how we did this. And then we raised funds from well-wishers around the world to go out and help those in need who needed funding. And we helped hundreds and hundreds of people who are veterans, soldiers, displaced people, and then the general population who are experiencing trauma. So that's what we've done since spring of 2021. We've been reaching out all across the country with the TM teachers to teach and help people with trauma.